as you probably already realize, this is the problem with liars, because they can't remember who they told what to. You see, it was about 9 or 10 months ago that a very similar fall happened with my mom. And similar to this time, the video that you just saw, the caregiver's response at that time was well short of safe and proper. And I spoke with this same head of nurses person about it at that time, 9 or 10 months ago. That's when she told me that their proper protocol for this type of situation, for an elderly person that has fallen on the floor, their proper protocol was for 2 caregivers to respond to the event and to assist the elder up off the floor. This same head of nursing told me that also, in addition to that, their med tech is to also respond to the situation and to evaluate the person, see if they're really okay, and to determine if EMTs needed to be called, if they were fearful for some dire injuries. So again, that's what she told me 9 or 10 months ago. Yet this time, she said, with this caregiver wrestling my mother up like a cowboy roping a calf at a rodeo, that she didn't see anything wrong with it. How could she have it both ways? She can't. She's lying. I knew it. She forgot that she told me what the proper protocol was. And my ire was getting up at this point. Because I knew she was lying. She knew she was lying too. So, at that point, after she pleaded the fifth, I said, okay, well, I'm not going to pursue that part of it anymore. I'm going to go into the second issue that I wanted to speak with her about. And this issue was on my conversation with some other caregivers there who were very concerned about the frequent, numerous deaths that were happening very recently, the ones that I referred to earlier in this video. So I asked this head of the nurses about it. I said, I hear that there have been a lot of recent deaths here at Brookdale, Sugarland. And she looked at me and hardly hesitated at all and said, no. And that was it. And I said, but, that is contrary to what I have heard from 2 very reliable sources. You're saying that there have been no deaths here. And she said, that's correct. And I couldn't believe, obviously, I knew, I was absolutely positive that she was lying again about this issue. And so I told her as much at the time. I told her that she's lying, and or she doesn't know what she's doing there. I had to call it like it is. If she was telling a lie about someone sewing a button on a shirt in the not exact position, or some other innocuous situation where it really didn't matter, then I wouldn't press it. But if we're talking about taking care of elderly people and possibly life or death situations, certainly at the very minimum could be, something with a lot of pain, some injuries, and I just can't accept lying about that kind of thing. As I mentioned earlier in this video, I don't like people that play games. I don't like people that stretch the truth. And I absolutely detest liars. And especially when it concerns serious life issues. So, that's not the end of it. I was outraged. Yeah, and I think you can understand why. She walked away and I let her go. Obviously, there is no way to have a conversation with her that would make any sense or achieve anything. And yet, at the same time, I knew that she's hiding something. Why would she lie about deaths there, saying there were no deaths, when she knew that as much time as I spent there, and I do, I go in to see my mom all the time. And as you already know, I have 2 security cameras in Mom's room so that I can monitor what goes on. But this head of nursing surely must have known that I would find out that what she said wasn't true. Even if I didn't know, but I already knew. I already knew some of the events. So that made me even more so want to look further into the situation, because I mean, it would have been one thing if she said, answer my question by saying, well, yes, we have had some deaths here recently, and unfortunately, because of the type of clients that we have here, the type of customers, whatever you'd want to call them, I would say they're more clients than customers. But anyhow, patient. That kind of thing does happen. Unfortunately, people in their 70s, 80s, and 90s, that's about the winter of people's lives, and they pass. And it happens then. People are frail at that age. So she could have said, yeah, there have been a couple of deaths here. Unfortunately, that's part of the situation here. We have to deal with it, and we're sorry for it. But no, she's just flat out lying. And it's interesting because the caregiver that I previously spoke with, who said she was very worried, very concerned about what was going on there at Brookdale, the number of deaths that were occurring, and the rapidness of the decline and death of those people. She said there were 2 or maybe 3 of them. And I told her I'd look further into it. Of course, this meeting with this head of nurses made me even more so want to look into it. And I did. And here's what I found. And I guess in a way I was shocked to find out the new information. And in a way I wasn't. Here's what I found. There were actually 4 people die there recently. And it's not that the one caregiver that was worried was not telling the truth. She just told me what she was aware of. But because I looked into it further, was I able to discover what I guess happened on other caregivers' shifts. I think that's what happened. And so there were a total of 4 of them. And I got all the names of the deceased and the dates that they died. And they were recent. So it begs the question, why was this person, this head of nurses lying to me was and telling me there's no deaths. What is she trying to hide? It was the first thing that came to my mind. What is her motivation? Was she just trying to steer me away by saying, no, there have been no deaths here, nothing here to see, move along? I don't know. But from my previous interactions with her, she should have known that I look thoroughly into things. I try to consider all facts and the entire situation. And if there's something that doesn't seem right, I'm going to pursue it further. And I did. And you know, the funny thing about this, I was able to confirm in another way, and actually 2 or 3 other ways, of these deaths. and one of them is almost laughable, because the very next day, which was Thursday, this very facility, Brookdale Sugarland, had a memorial service for one of those ladies that passed recently. They had the memorial service and eulogy in their meeting room. So, did the head of nurses that I spoke with her, did she think I would not find out about that? Did she think that, God, if Bruce finds out about this, will he not then realize that I lied to him? Again, surely, she's brighter than that, but apparently not. And that's part of the concerning part, is because these people, these elders that are residents, patients of this facility, their lives and well-being depend upon honest and good care. And if management there can't be honest with things, then, and we've got all this other evidence about misdeeds and wrongdoings, where do they really stand? And the more I thought about it, the more I thought about her lying to me, saying that there were no deaths, her quote, no, the more bothered I got with it. And I thought and thought and thought about it. And the more I thought about it, the more it stunk to me. I thought, wow, if there is something going on there, and I have a theory on what I think is going on there. If something is going on there, it needs to be found out. Because just as much as anything else, I don't want my mother to become victim to this. And so there's 2 parts to this. One is, as I mentioned, the more I thought about it, the more I realized that something was rotten in Denmark. That if she's telling me that there were no deaths, who else is she not telling the truth to? I thought. And I didn't know, but I felt pretty certain that if there is a death there, that they have to, by law, I would think, notify the authorities. So, a couple days later, on Saturday, I went to the police department and I talked to them about this. And I asked them, there were two Sugarland police officers there with me talking about this. And I told them my concerns. And I said, tell me about people dying anywhere, on the street, on a park bench, in an elder care facility, in a house, in an office. Are people supposed to notify you? And both of these officers yet said, yes, absolutely, it's supposed to be reported. And I said, do you have any way to check on any of the reports coming from Brookdale? And one of them piped up right away and said, yeah. And he pulled out his phone. I don't know exactly what kind of phone it was because it seemed like it was more than a phone. But then again, all of our phones are more than phones, they're computers and so much more. He accessed all the records from the Sugarland Police Department for all of May and all of the previous month, April. And he said, wait a minute, let me look. He pushed a few buttons and he said, there are no reports of any deaths there at Brookdale for all of May and all of April. And again, I was flabbergasted. I didn't know what to say. And I said, are you sure about this? Like I'm questioning a police officer that does this kind of thing regularly. Like he would know. And he said, yes. He said, it is mandatory that all deaths get reported to us, and we usually investigate them all. So, add this on top of everything, and things are really starting to look very bad